Alright, as with the last handout, if you want a template for the piece that you're going to play with, have a look at the side track off the last handout, and it's exactly the same template. In fact, you'll use exactly the same template for the very last handout of this series as well. Cool template to start off with. Once you have that template, take two of them to go like that, and now this last one, instead of making a cylinder, come up for a cylinder and then just give it a half twist and tape it together like that. Again, very simple. You've got the cylinder, take this across, just do that twist and stick that together, which will give us a Mobius strip on one side and a cylinder on the other side. And now we're ready to have some fun. So to start off with, how many sides does this have? Does the Mobius strip win out and the whole thing ends up with one side? Or does the cylinder win out and the whole thing ends up with two sides? Or maybe they're additive and the Mobius strip adds one side and the cylinder adds two more so that we have three sides altogether. Make sure your explorers have a guess before they even start thinking about it, and then let them think about it before they take any pens or anything and see if they can figure out how many there are. Again, let your explorers test, cogitate and argue about what will happen. But pretty soon some bright spark will figure it out, and no doubt the excitement will be too much and they'll have to share it with everybody else. Or maybe it's just the joy of gloating. I like to think it's the excitement that they can't help but share. Anyway, just to reassure you so you know what's coming, and if you haven't tried it, you should definitely pause now and try it yourself. I mean, even if it's just to sort of mentally do it in your head by tracing around the picture that there is in the handout. But just so that you know, the answer is one. There's just one side to this. The Mobius strip wins out. I mean, it's kind of clear really when you start to think about it. Anywhere on the Mobius strip you can get from one side to the other just by following around on the Mobius strip. So the question becomes, what happens with the cylinder? Well, suppose I was sitting here on this side of the cylinder and I wanted to get to that side. I could just go down till I'm on the Mobius strip, then use the Mobius strip to get down to the other side and then come back up. Make sense? You can get from one side to the other anywhere on any piece of this paper, just by using the Mobius strip if you need to switch over sides. Now as for what happens once we cut along the middle of our little object, I'll be impressed if you can just see it, but maybe you're the impressive type. Maybe one of your explorers is the impressive type. Most people though really need to just and again we end up with a square. But why? That said, try to resist simply cutting and try to resist letting your explorer simply cut. One way to do that is simply to collect all the scissors before handing out this handout. Although then you have to hand all the scissors back out again. Either way, if you want to see why we end up with the same thing, well, follow along with this. Encourage your explorers to think about different ways of cutting it and what would happen if they do cut along the different ways. And if they do, one of them might come up with the idea of cutting the cylinder first. And if they do cut the cylinder first, they'll end up with something like this. Now it's kind of almost the handcuffs that we had before, but not quite. One of them is sort of back to front from the other one. But if you're really clever, you can do a special Harry Houdini type thing and just pull this inside through that and then just pull it all the way through. And we end up with the same pair of handcuffs that we started off with before. Pretty cool. Now it's obvious that when I cut down this center, we end up with the same square. Well, as a side note for your speedy explorers, is this really the same square that we got when we cut the double cylinder? Have them think about it. And then maybe ask them what would happen if they colored the sides of their original cutout template first. That might give them a little bit of an extra clue as to what happens. Anyway, we're just about there, just about at the finale.